Hey guys, in previous video we saw that how we can store the Terraform state file in Azure storage account using backend configuration of Terraform. And in this video we are going to see how we can use Terraform output block and how we can store a particular resources data, if it is a name, location, or any other particular value, resource ID, something like that, how we can store that particular data in state file and how we can use the state file later in our resource block. Okay, so here this is what we did in previous video. We just created this backend configuration, provided this particular key so it can store this state file in storage account, and we have created this subnet 1 and subnet 2. So if we go back to the Azure portal, let me go back to the virtual network. You can see this subnet are created, dev and prod. Okay, and if I go back to the storage account and then container, this is the subnet.tf state file. So let me download this file and open in VS Code. Here you can see this is a complete JSON file, and we can see that two subnet 1 and subnet 2 are successfully created over here in this resource block, but we don't have any information in outputs. Okay, so let's take an example that you are creating a resources and you want, for an example, you want a resource ID. Okay, you want to store the resource ID of that resource in this output block, and later you want to use that somewhere else in your Terraform configuration. How you can do that? So right now we have created a subnet. So let me close this subnet.tf state. Nothing is there in output block. It is completely blank. Okay, let me close this, and we have created this two subnet. This is what we created using Terraform apply in my previous video. So here you can see that in this ID field, it's showing known after apply and known after apply. Okay, so right now what I will do is I will use Terraform output block in this configuration, and I will store these two created subnet ID in output block field. Okay, so to do that, I am right here on subnet directory. Inside that, I will create one more file called output.tf. okay, again the naming standard doesn't matter. You can give this file any name, or even if you want to use this file configuration in the main.tf file or subnet.tf file, you can do that. Okay, so it doesn't matter at all. Here I will use output block, and then I will give a name. So first name, for an example, let's take an example that I want to store this prod subnet ID. Okay, so I will use prod subnet. So this is just a label for your output block, and inside that you can actually write one more key called description and then value. So I will use this key called description, and I will just write description that this is prod subnet ID, and in value field I will use this particular resource type. So Azure RM subnet, I will use that here. Then I will need this particular label subnet 1, because subnet 1 is linked to this prod. So I will use dot then subnet 1, and then what I want to store is the ID of the subnet. So to store the ID of the subnet, we have this ID attribute over here, or even if you are not sure about the attribute, then you can just go to the Azure documentation page, and here you can search for subnet, and this is Azure RM subnet. This is the actual code that we used, and here you can get ID. It should be somewhere there. So this is the attribute reference, and the following attributes are exported. So you can actually export the ID, and you can also even export this particular name and resource group this detail as well. So I will go here and I will use subnet 1 and then dot id. Okay, and this is for prod subnet, and I also want to store dev subnet id. So I will copy this, and here I will just use dev subnet. This is for dev subnet, and then Azure RM subnet and dev subnet label is subnet 2. So I will use subnet 2 over here, and then id attribute is same for all. Okay, so let me go ahead and save this. Make sure that this output.tf file is in the same directory where your subnet.tf file is there. Okay, even if you don't want to create this different output.tf file, you can just copy this entire data and you can paste that after this. That is also fine at all, and even you can paste that over here also inside this line number 20. That is also fine. Okay, so you have this two subnets already created, and we have this output.tf file is ready. So let me save that, and here let me clear this one, and I will type Terraform plan. Okay, so we already did the initialization, so I will use Terraform plan, and let's see. Okay, so there are no changes in your actual configuration. The only changes is going to do in output. So changes to the output, dev subnet and prod subnet. So it will save this dev subnet and dev subnet id, and inside the prod subnet it will store this prod subnet id. So, and this is nothing but a key that you are going to use if you want to import that output block or the state file in your future configuration. Okay, so let me go ahead and use Terraform apply auto approve. Okay, apply completed. Nothing has been added, nothing has been changed, only the change that has been done in the Terraform state file, and this particular subnet id has been stored in Terraform state file. So let me go back here in our Terraform subnet.tf state file, and let me download this file once again. And if I open this file here in Visual Studio Code, now you can see that in output block we have dev subnet and we have value for dev subnet, and that is nothing but your development dev subnet id, and we also have this prod subnet key, and this is the value for that prod subnet id. So this is how you can store your how you can use output block to store your values or any kind of information that you want to store once that resource is created, and later you can use that output or state file in your future configuration. Okay, so right now what we did is we just initiated this in our previous video. We created this subnet and then we use this output.tf, but you can actually use output.tf at the initial Terraform apply command. Okay, so it is not necessary that first you need to create these resources and then you can export that output. It is not that is not recommended. You can actually create this output.tf file at the starting of your resource creation. So in case you are creating a virtual machine right now from the starting, at that point you can also mention this output.tf file, and it will just create the Terraform will create the virtual machine, and then it will export those values into the output.tf file, and it will store that value in your Terraform state file, which is nothing but is stored in your storage account. Okay, so you can also do like that. So we have this subnet ID stored in this output field. So in later next video, let's create a nick card, and then let's see how we can import this particular state file and this outputs values to create a nick card using Terraform.